Welcome back to the channel. Haven't had a video in a couple weeks. I was waiting on some parts to come in, and then the parts that did come in were wrong, so I had to reorder some stuff. But I'm kind of at the point where I'm just really waiting to get the engine put together on the car so I can start running all the plumbing and wiring. I kind of was tinkering the last couple weeks while I was waiting for parts, and got some of the tin work in the rear done, and then a fuel cell enclosure built because I kind of changed course and I didn't want the firewall in the back and lose some of the view out of the rear window, and I just think the enclosure looks a lot more clean. So I still need to put a lid on it and then figure out, I might still cover all this back in carpet, but battery's going to go over here, and then I do have to build another box probably of some sort for the coolant system. So I got this surge or expansion tank that the rad cap will go on and an overflow, and then the rad is going to be mounted up underneath the fuel cell. This is just like a standard Foxbody aluminum rad. Cut the rad hose ends off, and then just made up some aluminum plugs that I can weld on. I cut the cap off here too, and I can plug that up. And then I've got the fittings, so it'll get two -16s that'll run up to the front of the car, and I think for these they're just going to go one in the end tanks here, and then this -12 will go in the top, probably and I'll kind of tilt the rad when I mount it so that it'll help air get out, and that -12 will run up to the fill on the surge tank, and that should be the high point in the system. So I'm just going to go ahead now and get these plugs just cleaned up and give everything one more wipe down, and then I'll get the plugs welded on, and then I can cut some holes in the side tanks and get the fittings welded in. Okay, I've got all the holes are welded up on the rad, and that right underneath the fuel cell is pretty well where I'm going to mount it, and then I'll have a big fan on the bottom side. As far as the fittings go, I've got this Davis Craig water pump, so I'm going to remote mount that somewhere at the back in the corner here. And then I'll have one of these -16 fittings. And my plan is to this is going to go right in the side of the rad here. And this will go to the water pump, which will push water to the front. It'll be, -16 line. And then it'll split into, wide off into two -12s, because at the front of the front of the engine where the motor plate is, there'll be two -12 fittings for water going in, and then on the intake manifold that is a -16, and that'll return basically to the other side. I've got another -16 fitting that I plan to put on the end tank on this side, and that'll kind of complete the whole circuit. And then like I mentioned before, I've also got a -12 over there that will go up into the surge tank to be the high point to fill the system. There's quite a few guys actually who run these setups on the street with pretty good results. So it doesn't get overly hot where I'm at in BC. Like 30 degrees is a really hot day. So So I don't think there should be any reason cooling it. I'm probably not going to run a thermostat. I do have some different restrictors though to try to slow down the coolant a bit. I was going to look at the Moroso remote mounted thermostat, but if I feel I need one, it's easy enough to plumb in afterwards. For now, I'm just going to run the restrictor and see how it works. But I'm going to get the rad back out from under there and drill some holes for these fittings. It's an inch line on the bottom, so I'll drill some 1-inch holes in the end tanks, and then I will get these and the 4 tabs welded onto the rad, and then I can bolt it to the fuel cell support that's down there. All right, I got all the fittings welded on now. The dash 16 feed to the motor, the dash 16 that'll be the return, and then the dash 12 that'll go up to the overflow tank. And then I just tacked on the 4 mounting tabs. I'm gonna wait until I put the rad back up under the car to see if I like the way that it's sitting and build mounts off of the fuel cell enclosure before I fully weld those. But pretty happy with how it turned out. I still don't have a lot of hours with the aluminum welding on this machine, but it came out pretty good. I'm using a Prime Weld 225X, I think it is, and when I welded up all the old holes with the thinner stuff, I think I was about 90 amps probably on the machine, and then on all the fittings, because they're a lot thicker, I was at about 110 amps. So yeah, it seems to have welded pretty nice. But yeah, that's pretty all I have time for in this video. All I can really do right now is mount the rad. I need to wait until I have the engine in the car to start running lines, and when I start running lines, that's when I'll figure out probably where I mount that pump. But kind of over the course of the next couple of weeks in between building the motor, I do want to get the catch can and the surge tank mounted somewhere, and yeah, finalize that so that I can build a little aluminum box over them like I did the fuel cell. But for now, thanks for watching, and tune in for more.